Guys News. Today's February 18th, 2022. It's been a long year already. We're almost at the end of February, and we're seeing California took off the restrictions, but they put them back on. It was a weird press conference yesterday from Gavin Newsom, our governor. We have the Smarter Plan, which is basically doing the same thing we've been doing. It's very dystopic over here, but they still say they're the good guys. I've been looking at Canada all day today. I can't keep my eyes off Canada because the peaceful trucker rally over there in Ottawa has now been raided by the police. The organizers were arrested last night, some of the key organizers. The Canadian government has frozen all funding through what was it? Give, Send, Go, and then GoFundMe before that. Those funds were frozen, tens of millions of dollars. And then they're talking about this hardcore stuff that we'll get into a little bit more in the show. But I want to introduce my special guest, Jonathan Stein, CEO of CoinBeast. How are you doing tonight, Jonathan? I know you're over there in Canada.
I'm right in the middle of the fire. It's been a very interesting week, interesting month so far. But look, we have Bitcoin. Bitcoin gives us hope.
Jonathan, I've never seen anything like this. We're talking a little bit before the show about this emergency order. Let me pull this up on the screen. Justin Trudeau's emergency order aimed at cutting off funds to protesters encompasses virtually every part of the Canadian financial system, including portfolio managers and security dealers. Documents show, this is an article out of Bloomberg, the new rules make demands of a broad list of entities, including banks, portfolio managers, credit unions, loan companies, security firms, fundraising platforms, insurance companies, and fraternal benefit societies. They must determine whether they are in possession or control of property of a person who's attending an illegal protest or providing supplies to one, according to orders published by the government late Tuesday night of this week. That's extreme. That's the most extreme thing I think I've ever heard coming out of a Western, quote, Western democracy now. What are your thoughts on these draconian financial restrictions that the Trudeau emergency order has laid down on the people of Canada?
Well, we're in uncharted territory right now. It's the first time in our history that our prime minister, the leader of our country, actually uses the Emergency Act at the federal level, which grants the government and the police additional powers. So we're in uncharted territory. They're starting to go after bank accounts. They want to go after crypto exchanges. Basically, they're trying to. I mean, the strategy here is to discourage, individuals from funding and supporting the convoy movement. In addition to also being able to arrest protesters that are there. I mean, clearly, the prime minister is showing that. I mean, for me, he's scared. He's scared that this movement is a lot bigger than he thought it would ever become. He once referred to it as the fringe minority. Clearly, you don't invoke the Emergency Act when it's a fringe minority. So this is the government panicking, I think what they did this week was a great ad campaign for Bitcoin. I think a lot of Canadians woke up and bought some Bitcoin.
What was that? I saw that one, Jonathan, that one funding site. I think it's called Tallycoin. They're raising a lot of money. I haven't really been keeping up with it. Earlier in the week, they raised a lot of money on that, a lot of Bitcoin on through there. So that just shows that that it can't be stopped. But let's play this clip now of the Canadian financial minister. What is her name again?
Freeland.
Let's play that clip and then get your reaction to that. It's a short clip here.
Sure thing.
Both personal and corporate, but you're not releasing the information. And the actual follow-up is, I'm just wondering whether the bank accounts will be targeted of individuals who donated to the Give, Send, Go and the GoFundMe campaigns. Are they considered designated people under the Emergencies Act, meaning that their credit cards could be cut and financial services are targeting them as well?
Okay, so the names of both individuals and entities, as well as crypto wallets, have been shared by the RCMP with financial institutions, and accounts have been frozen, and more accounts will be frozen. Crowdfunding platforms and payment service providers have started the registration process with FinTrack. In terms of the specifics on whose accounts are being frozen, you now have the regulations. The financial service providers have those regulations as well, and they, working with law enforcement, will be making the operational decisions.
Wow, that's a True North, great site there. What is your reaction to that? To me, that's extreme. That the government are the extremists. To me, I mean, that's just wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really shows, it shows people that it shows the crack. It reveals the cracks in the system, right? I mean, if you ultimately, the government and the banks can freeze your account whenever they want, I think that's a brutal wake-up call to why individuals need to, to be sovereign and be able to control their money, which Bitcoin allows you to do. And it's, in the Bitcoin world, it's always best practice to not leave your, coins on an exchange, or not at least leave a large amount of them on an exchange. So this just reinforces, some best practices. And, at the end of the day, I think people are going to start questioning the entire, financial system. And what's funny is the 5 major banks in Canada actually all went down at the same time a few days ago. So, yeah, interesting times.
I saw that story, and we still don't know why they just magically went down. So this is a hard education for people that you need to take your financial health very seriously now, right? I mean, because now they're over a respiratory virus, they're threatening people's financial health. They will seize all your property. I mean, that to me, that's communism, where communists say, hey, we're going to seize all your property. That's what communists do. That's what the government of Canada and Trudeau under his emergency orders have done here now. Not to get too far into what has happened there today, but what are your thoughts? I don't know if you've seen there, Jonathan, today, the peaceful protesters. I've seen snipers on the roof. I've seen armored vehicles. I've seen the Canadian, Royal Mounted Police bashing people's heads in with the butt of a rifle. I saw horses run over old ladies. It's police brutality, from what I can tell, against peaceful protesters who really are peaceful, not the fake BLM Antifa protesters who are rioting, lighting stuff on fire, arson, all this mayhem that you can clearly go back and see the videos if they're not deleted off the internet, but clear violence from the left. But then now these peaceful protesters, which I wouldn't even... They want to frame them as right-wing white supremacists. I mean, to me, it's just the working class now that is fed up with, and their request was remove the mandates, right? Remove the mandates, and it's not even political, really. It's like the government is oppressing us, making it dystopic to live. So remove the mandates. So, what are your thoughts on the actions today in Ottawa from the Canadian Royal Mounted Police under Trudeau's orders? It's very disturbing to me over here in America, in California.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I had a real sense of pride in how Canadians were coming together from all over the country over this convoy movement, and just protesting in a peaceful way, but sending a strong message to the government that a lot of Canadians want to live in a society where choice is valued and freedoms are valued. Unfortunately, this week I have to say that I'm quite embarrassed with what's going on in my country. You know, Canada's always prided itself on being this free democracy, very open-minded to different ideas. And this week we're seeing, I mean, some of the like worst footage I've seen out of Canada ever. But at the same time, you know, like we have to keep perspective of where we're at in the world right now. Like obviously the focus is on Canada, but this is kind of being played out in every country, obviously at a different scale. But you have two major forces in play right now, which I think will be a hot topic in any election in any country in the coming years. You have the forces of centralization and big government, and you have the forces of decentralization and rights and freedoms. And we're going to see this play out. I think this is just the beginning. It's going to get chaotic at times. We're going to see volatility in the markets. We're going to see volatility in society like we're seeing in Ottawa right now. But people have to keep things in perspective. And, you know, if you look at, any war, a solution never comes easy, right? Like there has to be some obstacles, and there has to be a struggle, and there has to be some chaos, unfortunately, for a solution to emerge. I think a lot of us understand what that solution is, but I think there's still a lot of people that don't quite understand what's going on right now, and it's going to take time. But I think we're seeing the beginning of a war. And when I say war, I mean, I'm not talking about two countries, going in with their tanks and machine guns. What we're seeing right now playing out throughout the world is war between centralized government that want to, basically control everything, every aspect of society, and the people rising up and saying, no, enough is enough.
It's amazing. Men in black uniforms over there with their machine guns are breaking out windows of trucks. I saw an RV parked. I don't know if I can find that video real quick. An RV parked, and they went up there with a crowbar and crowbar opened the lock on it and started pulling people out. It's like, what the? It's like, wow. And this one, let me find this one post here real quick. It's like, wow. I guess it's been said. I've heard it said. I forget who said it, but how do you get the government to show you who they really are, make them show you that they're tyrants, and they're really doing it? Here's that video. Let me show this clip here. Turn down the audio. Oh, screwed that up. Okay, here we go. Let's show this clip. They pry barred open the door. Let me rewind that real quick. This is an RV just parked there. What did it say on the side? Library, I think. It says library. That's like the library van, right? RV van. Oh, it says Liberty. Sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, look at these police. How did these guys live with themselves?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of them they're following orders. I don't think
just following orders, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of them don't necessarily agree with the orders that they're following, but some people are speaking out, and some others are just going along with the plan. But Sam, something that doesn't get talked about enough is the fact that obviously you're seeing these clips, and we're seeing a lot of different footage on Twitter and different social media platforms. But then if you look at the legacy media, which is still how a lot of people consume their news, we're seeing a completely different picture. Okay, we're hearing stories that people are they can't get to work, and there's chaos in the streets, and protesters are being violent.
The honking, right? That was the big complaint. The honking, because they honk for like all night long. And we saw there's clips. I saw a guy, some normie guy came out and started like attacking one of the truckers, saying, "Stop the honking! I can't sleep." Right.
Well, and the thing is that
that's your meaning?
A protest is supposed to create a bit of disturbance and get people's attention. That is what that's a protest. Now, I guess people are not used to a protest going on for more than a day, but I think you have to take a step back here and say, okay, if it's gone on this long, then obviously the situation is pretty severe, and these people are pretty serious about what they're protesting about. And unfortunately, the government, they're refusing to listen. And again, the narrative is that these people are crazy. The Prime Minister has thrown every name you can imagine at these protesters and trying to label them under different categories.
Call them racist,
we've heard it all.
right-wingers, white supremacists, bigots, misogynists, any derogatory term.
You name it, right? and what's crazy is that, like, he's been very supportive of other protests in the past, which you could argue, I mean, some of those protests were actually way more violent and way more destructive, but somehow, he was supportive of those protests, but yet this one is, this is unacceptable, and these people need to go home.
It's wow, it's amazing what's going on. We had to talk about it today because, like I said, I was shocked seeing this. I didn't think they would go to this extreme over there, sending the police like that. I mean, because the protesters' demand is you simply lift the mandates. Stop enforcing this COVID-19 tyranny that you guys are doing against us. We don't want to be forcibly medicated with the vaccine. We're tired of all the restrictions that go along with it. You know what I mean? Just end it, which a lot of the rest of the world has. UK took off all the restrictions last week. A bunch of European countries have taken the restrictions off. Half of the United States hasn't had any restrictions for like over a year. Over here in California, where we're at, they say they're off, but they're still on. They like to play this game here in California. But I mean, where I'm at in Fresno, California, the Central Valley, it's more conservative type area, farming, agricultural area. So it's been not as crazy as I've seen and talked to people from the Bay Area, San Francisco, and LA, Southern California. Some of those places are still very crazy, like dystopic. Like they're checking vaccine passports in some of those places. Here in the Central Valley, they're not doing that. They haven't done that. So it's a little bit more free here. But all they had to do was simply take off the mandates and let us get back to our life already, because this is not healthcare, men in black uniforms and armored tanks and all this. This is not making anybody healthy. It's the, like you're saying, the centralized government fearful that their control is being challenged. Tell us about how I don't see that broadcast over. What's the main broadcast, the state-run media over there in Canada, that you're saying these normie boomers are getting their information, and that's why they're not fully understanding what's going on here and why they should be concerned?
Yeah, so that's a big problem, right? Like the baby boomer generation are getting their information from your legacy media. I mean, here in Canada, we have the CBC, which is a state funded.
What is that? Canadian Broadcasting Company? Is that what that stands for?
Yeah, corporation. So they're actually the main network for the Olympics right now, but they're also the main news network. And they've received millions of dollars from the federal government. So obviously, I mean, you can just imagine what their narrative is going to be. But I mean, it really is. It's a joke. It's embarrassing to Canadians, because sometimes you'll have a panel, right, of so-called experts, and they all share the same opinion. There's no panel. It's the same. It's like 5 different people saying the same thing in just 5 different ways. It's kind of like our leaders debate that we had before Trudeau got reelected. You have different parties, but they all share the same opinion on the main issues. So it's the same party in just different colors, right? There's no official opposition. There's no alternative view. It's the same narrative that's constantly being repeated over and over again. So it's kind of a joke when you say, oh yeah, this is a panel, this is a news network. I mean, you got to show different perspectives. You have to show people what's actually going on, and they fail to do that. So that's creating a huge gap in the information that's being distributed to different demographics in the population, right? Like baby boomers a lot of them don't go on Twitter. They don't go on some of these alternative media sources. So that's a big problem when people are trying to have discussions and try to find some common ground. But yeah, man, it's really interesting times here.
It is. I think we have that same problem here in the United States. We have they lean heavy, like you say, the corporate legacy media. Even all of them. Fox News, NBC, CNBC, whatever the cable news, and then you got your radio. Man, these guys on the radio, let me tell you, they will not let up on the propaganda from the California State Health Department every 15 minutes on the radio. And I actually was hearing, it's very dystopic, and I think they're doing it on purpose. It's part of this, part of the social engineering mind control programs to scramble your brain. Because like I was listening to a commercial today. I have to turn it off a lot, right? But I'm driving to work, to and from work.
Yeah.
And I turn on the radio, like talk radio station over here, a big one. And they're obviously getting paid advertising money from the California State Health Department. And the ad is just it said, take your COVID-19 vaccine now. It will protect you for the winter and for the future. But if you need to take that vaccine after you've had one 4 months. So if you had one 4 months ago, go ahead and get your booster, but it will protect you for this winter and the future. You know what I mean? They give you two conflicting ideas on the same ad right after each other. It's very confusing. I think they're doing that to put us in like this state of learned helplessness. They're doing hardcore mind control through behavioral psychologists now against us, this social engineering program. And it makes me very angry. I've been getting less angry. I'm trying to get less angry, but I'm aware of what they're doing. And it's just, it's upsetting that, that the government's going to these lengths to control the population. Now, are you seeing that type of disconnected messaging going on where they say it'll protect you this winter and into the future? And by the way, it only lasts 4 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I like to call it mental warfare. And we've constantly seen that throughout, COVID. I mean, the constant flip-flopping by governments. They say one thing, and then they reverse their decision and they'll go back on it and then they'll say it again. And it's just, it basically, it creates a lot of, instability in society. People are constantly on their toes, not knowing what's coming next. But I think what a lot of Canadians are frustrated with right now is, I mean, if you look at we have some of the highest vaccination rates in the world, yet we have some of the most restrictions. So it just doesn't add up, and I think, you can fool people for so long, but at the end of the day, I mean, people are, people are smart. Like they're not going to be fooled forever. And I think a lot of Canadians are waking up to that, and they're starting to scratch their heads and question, some of these mandates and some of these decisions that are made by people that they once trusted. Right. I mean, coming back to the banking system here. I mean, a lot of people have had faith in the banking system for a long time. They take that for granted, and why not? I mean, we've had a relatively stable banking system in Canada, but I think this week was a brutal wake up call that you cannot take those things for granted anywhere.
This is the wake up call I think we needed, and it's like you say though, it's like you have high vaccination rates. Everybody did what they were told to do.
Yes.
We're in this together. We're going to save Granny. We're saving everybody. You know what I mean? The government knows best. We trust the experts. They're taking care of us. They're not really evil empire now, but they're showing their true colors as being this evil empire, centralized control, just crazy people. I mean, that Trudeau. What do you think? What's up with Trudeau and Castro? Have you seen that meme? I've been calling Trudeau and Gavin Newsom, our governor over here, illegitimate stepbrothers, because they're both in this. I don't know if you saw. They're both in the World Economic Forum Young Leaders program, and so it's looking like they're getting their orders from these World Economic Forum central bankers over there in Europe, it looks like that's the plan for the Great Reset. And so, you have any thoughts on the memes of Trudeau being Castro's son?
Well, you know what?
He does look very similar in the photos.
The worst part about this, though, is that I mean, Justin Trudeau has never hid some of his ambitions and long-term goals. He's been talking even before he became prime minister. I mean, it's all there for people to see. I mean, he's always been
didn't he say he admires China's dictatorship?
Yeah, like he's always admired China's style of governance. He's even used the word dictator or dictatorship. So like this is nothing, that he just all of a sudden, appears as this dictator. I mean, he admires China. I think his goal here, I mean, it's very clear. Like they're sending a very clear message right now that they want to destroy our Constitution, our Charter of Rights that was drafted in the 80s. Actually, Brian Pickford, who is the only living member of that committee who drafted up that Charter of Rights, is actually recently filed a lawsuit against the federal government, saying that they're in clear violation of our Charter of Rights. So I think that the goal is very clear. Trudeau is not, hiding it. But at the same time, you're getting also a lot of mixed signals. Like we have, if you look at what the provinces are doing right now, which are like our states, a lot of the provincial governments are backing up now on some of these mandates, and they're starting to lift a lot of the measures that are in place. So you're kind of getting this mixed signal from the federal government and the provincial governments. And people just don't know what to think anymore. Like coming back to this whole mental warfare, right? It's like you don't know what to think. Are things getting better? Are they getting worse? But at the end of the day, until the federal government lifts these mandates, Canadians are unable to travel freely within the country, right? So a lot of Canadians cannot get on a train, let alone a plane, and go across the country as free as they please. So this is why, the provinces can lift some of these measures, but what the federal government announced this week, I think, is very extreme. It's very serious, and Canadians cannot take that lightly, because this sets a very dangerous precedent.
Man, it's amazing. Let's switch gears here and get off of the tyranny over there and get onto some Bitcoin, some better news. Let's talk about what you guys are doing. Well, let's talk about the economy here in the United States, because I know that we're the world reserve currency, the US dollar here, right? We're the
for now.
And let me throw this up there. US debt clock. This is we just surpassed a milestone like 2 weeks ago. Official U.S. national debt over $30 trillion. And you can see that. Everybody should go to usdebtclock.org. They have a lot of great economic data there breaking it down. But you can see there in the far left-hand corner right there. And what is the Canadian national debt over there in our fiat debt-based monetary systems that we find ourselves in? And tell us about the money printing that has gone on in the since COVID started in I guess around March of 2019.
Yeah. Well, our debt is in pretty bad shape as well. Most people don't realize. I know during COVID in March 2020, the big crash, everyone was focusing on the Fed and all the money printing going on in the U.S. What a lot of people don't realize is that the Central Bank of Canada was actually printing at a much more rapid pace than in the U.S. So we have a lot of the same issues here.
It's the Canadian dollar, right? The Canadian dollar.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Canadian dollar obviously is very dependent on oil and gas and a lot of the energy sectors here. But we have a lot of the same issues that you have in the U.S. when it comes to debt and the system just being overly leveraged, from government top down, right? It's not just individuals, but the state is in huge debt right now. So which is why I don't see how. I know everyone's talking about interest rates going up. I think, I mean, they're talking about it and they might even go through with it maybe once or twice. I don't see how they can, this is going to be a long-term plan because the system is so leveraged and the government has so much debt. Raising interest rates for a long period of time would not help the central bank or any level of government.
Well, that's what they have to do if they want to try to combat inflation. Now is raise the interest rates to pull some of that money back in, but we're seeing insane inflation over here. Like the dollar store, for example. My mother told me that she likes to go to the dollar store, right? And it used to be $1 at the dollar store. You'd go buy all this cheap Chinese garbage over there. I told her I don't like the dollar store. I don't know why you go there, but she's like, oh, they have some good stuff. So I'm like, okay, Mom. But she told me like a couple of weeks ago, she's like, hey, Sam, I went to the dollar store and everything costs $1.25 at the dollar store now. And so that's like 25% inflation that my mother going to the dollar store can clearly see. And so, but it's across the board. But that was a perfect example to me. What are the price increases over there? Are you seeing massive inflation over there the way we are here?
Yeah, remember you used to put a quarter in this machine and you get like a little bubble gum that would come out?
Yeah.
No, it depends obviously what you're looking at, but we like the price of gas has gone up big time here, groceries, food. So I mean we're also experiencing inflation right now. But I think also like that inflation also has a big factor are some of the shortages that have been created because of COVID. And
was it COVID or government policies?
Well, I think it's I mean, COVID was the backdrop, and obviously, like when governments start opening and closing economies, or some governments just keep them closed. Obviously, that's just gonna you're throwing fuel on the fire. But something that I'd like to bring up actually that doesn't get enough attention is the energy crisis that's going on in China right now.
Tell us about that. Yeah, I haven't heard about that. What's going on with the energy in China?
Well, they're going through. They have a water crisis right now that's only going to get worse. And when they rely heavily on carbon, and you need water to make that work. Not to mention that the huge population they have and the energy demands that country has. But they're experiencing a water crisis right now, which will have huge implications not only on their economy and their entire system, but then obviously that'll have a ripple effect on the rest of the world. So I know depending on who you listen to, some people are saying, well, inflation is it's eventually it's going to go away once we fix these shortages. But I feel like the situation in China
right now
is going to be a big problem.
Shortages have to do with inflation. They've created like 40-50% of the money supply. That's what's causing the inflation, is the increase in money supply. Okay, I mean, and they try to explain it away, that blah blah blah, whatever, make up all this crazy stuff. You guys increase the money supply. If you ever, I should have pulled up that one. There's that one M2 chart, the money supply from the St. Louis Fed, and it goes like straight up. It's like as soon as COVID hit, boom, like that. You know what I mean? It's like that's why there's inflation, because there's too much money. I guess you tie it into the supply chain because there's too much money chasing too few goods.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of factors right now. A lot of the money printing also got tied up in the banking system, or gets tied up with governments.
Did you guys have the bailouts? Because we had PPP, excuse me, what was it? Payroll protection program. We had 2 rounds of that over here, and a lot of people got those bailouts to keep. You had to use it for payroll. There's a lot of fraud, of course, but honest companies got that money, and they kept and they used it on payroll. Did you guys have that same type of bailout program over there?
Well, there were different government initiatives that they were trying to, help certain businesses and obviously, help people who had lost their jobs. But again, if you look at what's coming in versus what needs to go out, I mean, it doesn't match up. And I think a lot of these forces were already in play before COVID, right? I mean, everyone talks about COVID, but I mean, inflation was already it's been a problem for years, right? I mean, just look at what things cost 10 years ago, 20 years ago. That comes back to the issues with our money, right? The big problem is fiat, not COVID or not shortages, but the way fiat is constructed and how our money is produced. Our money is not. We don't use sound money.
That's the key right
we
there.
were on
Sound money.
Yeah, I
Explain
mean,
that to us, please.
we were on a gold standard once upon a time. We went off of that, and now central banks can print whatever they want to print, and obviously, again, like COVID just kind of exposed that. But this has been a problem way before COVID. So I think, I think a lot, and the other thing too is a lot of people, they like convenience, right? So if central banks start rolling out their central bank digital currency, which China's already doing, and you helicopter money into people's accounts, people are going to like that, but you got to look at what's on the other side of that, right? They can also take it out as quickly. So
Let me ask
at the end of the day, we need a better money. We need
sound money.
We need money that's not inflationary by nature. And we need a real true store of value. And that's where Bitcoin comes into play. Bitcoin fixes this. And for the first time in our history, we can actually say that we have a solution. We have a sound money and a true store of value.
I'm pulling up your. You guys have a nice website, by the way. Coinbeast.
Thank you.
It's very slick. Very nice website.
Appreciate that.
So explain to us why. Okay, so I've been looking at Bitcoin for a while now. Like I told you, I'm running a node over here. I'm probably a domestic terrorist for running a node now.
Not in the US.
Well, I mean, they're talking about the Biden administration is talking about they're going to regulate cryptocurrency, but I don't think I guess what's the name? Gary Gensler. He's a guy at the Treasury Department. He seems to understand a little bit, but not to go down that rabbit hole. But I had some questions here from my girlfriend. Now she's trying to get into the she's looking at stocks. She's looking at bonds. She's looking at cryptocurrency, and she's trying to figure some things out about where to put some of her money because she's not confident. She hears me talking about this stuff all the time. You know what I mean? And she's not confident in the US dollar, obviously. I think like on our first date, like 10 years ago, when I first met her, I started talking to her about the Federal Reserve and Ron Paul and this stuff, right? And she actually wanted to listen a little bit. So that's how I knew that she was a keeper over here for me. So if any woman on your first date could listen to you ramble on about the Federal Reserve a little bit, then that's a good woman to keep. But she had some questions over here about, she wants to know, I told her, give me some questions to ask Coinbeast CEO, because we're going to do a show, which we're doing right now. But she wants to know what makes Bitcoin better than other cryptocurrencies, because we know there's like, I don't know, hundreds, thousands out there now, probably of all these different shit coins, which they're called in the Bitcoin community. So what makes Bitcoin better than all the other cryptocurrencies out there in the market?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, Bitcoin is the only true decentralized cryptocurrency. And it's every day it becomes more and more decentralized. You're actually participating in that, by running your own node. You're helping the decentralization of the network. The issue, or one of the many issues with these other cryptocurrencies, is that they are not decentralized. They use a lot of, catchy words and phrases to make you think that it's, it's revolutionary and it's the next Bitcoin. But if you actually look at the network, a lot of these cryptocurrencies will say, well, we're faster than Bitcoin. Well, you can't have a secure network and have speed at the same time, right? If you want a really fast network, well, then your security is going to be compromised, which is why Bitcoin moves slowly, which is why it took many years to build a very solid foundation and secure network. And now that we have that, now you're seeing layer 2 solutions being built on top of Bitcoin that can provide these other, features like speed. The Lightning Network is a great example of that, but that takes time. These other cryptocurrencies are not decentralized. So the issue is that if you go after the company or the fund or the developer who built the cryptocurrency, I mean, the whole thing, will fall apart or it becomes fragile. And if you actually look at some of these other cryptocurrencies, they're basically a new version of fiat, right? They don't really solve any of the problems that we have with the fiat system. So Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency that gives us decentralization, gives us security. And the other big thing is there will only be 21 million Bitcoin. A lot of these other cryptocurrencies, there is no cap. Ripple, Ethereum are all good examples of that. The founders or the body that basically, or the committee, the governance that controls, how many are going to be printed, they can decide at any time to print more. So that is not sound money.
I was frustrated. I tried Ethereum because I was gonna help out this guy actually in Australia who made one of those. I don't want to call them stupid, but I really think they're stupid. But the digital art pieces, what are they? NFTs, right? This guy made it. He was in Australia. He was suffering heavy tyranny. Couldn't work. Couldn't leave his house. Basically, this is probably like 6-8 months ago over there in Australia. I interviewed this guy, and I appreciated him being an artist and whatnot. But I went and tried, and I was like, dude, he did an NFT release trying to fund himself over there, locked down in Australia. And I was like, dude, I'm going to try to help you out and buy one of your pieces of art over there. It was called Cyberpunks, or COVID Punks is what it was called. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll try to help you out, give you some funding. And then I go on their Ethereum network, and it costs more in transaction fees than it did to actually buy that digital art. And I was like, it was like $15,000 in transaction fees or something. And I was going to pay the guy like $200 or something. You know what I mean? And it's like, what? I was like, I can't even help you, man. I was like, I'm not going to spend $15,000 on transaction fees to buy your digital art. And so I did that, tried it for a couple of days, and they're like, oh, they call it the gas, right? And so I went on there a couple of days, and they're like, oh, you have to find when there's less traffic and you can maybe get it down. Like, the least I saw it was like 12,000, maybe 10 for just transaction fees. And I was like, I don't have that much Ethereum to start with, and there's no way I'm going to just spend it all on transaction fees. So I saw that, and I was like, I'm starting to understand what this whole scam, why everybody's calling it scam coins and shit coins. And so have you had any experience with these other cryptos on the exchanges? On how's that been for you, or you're just strictly Bitcoin? What's been your experience with other cryptocurrencies out there, or have you had any?
No, we really our focus is on Bitcoin. We're a Bitcoin only education platform. But the best, I mean, what I tell a lot of people who have the same question is, I say, if you like going to the casino, then you can buy other cryptocurrencies, because sometimes you might get lucky and it might pump 10, 20x, but it'll fall just as quickly, if not quicker, right? And it'll go to zero. But hey, if you like going to the casino, have fun. If you want to store a value, buy Bitcoin.
Next question from that's a great point. My next question from my girlfriend, how does Bitcoin beat inflation? She wants to know.
Well, if you look at the performance of Bitcoin, if you zoom out, a lot of people are focused on price day to day. But if you zoom out and you look at the performance of Bitcoin I always say, like, you got to take it, like, look at it over a 4-year cycle, because that's how the mining cycle works.
Explain
every 4 years.
Explain the mining cycle for our audience. What is the deal with every 4 years and the halving? What's going on with that?
So every 4 years, the rewards that the miners get for mining new Bitcoin, it gets cut in half.
And right? What are let's back up a little bit even more. What are the miners now? These are little men that go out there with their pickaxes and are mining Bitcoin from the land.
Oh, those are the old miners. These are the new miners. So the new miners are actually not humans; they're computers, and these little computers are basically built to only mine Bitcoin. They're basically built for one purpose only: to solve these different algorithms. And this is what secures the network. This is what also confirms transactions on the network. So the more miners you have on the network, the more secure it becomes. There was a lot of panic a couple of months ago when China said, okay, we're kicking all the miners out, because there were a lot of miners in China. And then what we saw is that for a short period of time, yes, the hash rate dropped for a little bit, which is basically the power of the network. And then it quickly went back up, and now we're again at all-time highs. And that just shows the resiliency and the strength of the network, and this is where game theory comes into play, right? Like, if one country says, oh, we're going to kick all the miners out, well, then another country will take those miners and embrace the opportunity. And that's exactly what happened. A lot of those miners went to the US, they went to Canada, they went to Russia, Kazakhstan. So it just became an opportunity for other countries and other miners in other places. And that's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin, is that you can't, like, you've got miners all over the world now, right? So even if one country or a couple of countries get together and say, oh, we're going to ban Bitcoin and we're going to kick all the miners out, well, they'll just go somewhere else.
And we've seen that happen. That's that part of the game theory.
Exactly. But coming back to your question regarding the 4-year cycle, right? So every 4 years, the reward gets cut in half. So it becomes harder and harder to mine more Bitcoin.
That's the math problem getting more complex.
Exactly. Well, more complex, but also you have more miners competing for less rewards. So that, in addition to, there can only be more, there'll never be more than 21 million Bitcoin issued, right? So
we have a set supply. There'll never be
exactly. There's a hard cap
created.
Yeah, exactly. So again, if you zoom out and you look at the performance of Bitcoin in the last 10 years, okay? I mean, find me a better performing asset ever, right? You won't. Bitcoin has outperformed every other asset in the last 10 years, in the last 5 years, even since, March 2020. I mean, I have friends who tell me about their stocks and how well they've done with their stocks since the crash, March 2020. Bitcoin has outperformed many of these stocks. So, in terms of inflation,
real quick, while you're talking about stock, you know whose stock is in the toilet right now, which I think is a great thing. Moderna stock is in the toilet. And we saw the Moderna CEO last week deleted his Twitter account and sold all his stock, coincidentally. Make of that what you will, but I'm happy. I want Moderna to go bankrupt, because I think that the product they put out there on the market is not very good. Sorry to get off on that tangent.
No. Yeah, that's a great point. People get excited, when the S&P 500 goes up, 10, 20%. I mean, look at Bitcoin. Since March 2020, it dropped all the way to 3,000. It climbed all the way up to 69,000 all-time
That
highs.
was an all-time high. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone was getting ready for 100K, and then it again it dropped a bit. Well, for some people it dropped significantly. I mean, that's in traditional terms, going from 69K to 30K. That's a pretty big drop.
They started hitting it with. I remember they said, they hit it with. It's using all this energy. It's killing the environment.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Bitcoin miners use more energy than most countries. Climate change. You're killing the planet, Bitcoin miners and Bitcoiners. You're evil and bad. And forget about whatever damage the fiat dollar does, funding all these wars. Forget about all of that and what that does to the environment and humanity and killing people. You Bitcoin people are bad because you're causing climate change and using too much energy. That's what the narrative was when we saw that big drop.
Yeah, I mean they've tried to kill it so many times, and what the
right?
Bitcoin network just shows again is how resilient it is. Bitcoin doesn't care at the end of the day. Bitcoin just going to do its thing. New blocks will be mined, and it will just carry on. And Bitcoin is, like I said, the decentralization aspect is just becoming bigger and bigger, and I don't think that the world has never needed Bitcoin more than right now. So I think we're in a very interesting time in Bitcoin's history as well. I think Bitcoin is starting to show why it is so, or sorry, I should say the world is showing why Bitcoin is so important and valuable, not just to countries like El Salvador or Argentina where they're experiencing hyperinflation, but even in our so-called democracies and our Canada and U.S. and European nations, why everyone needs Bitcoin, and why it's our only way to opt out of a failing system.
Canada just proved, we played the clips at the beginning of the show, that if you disagree with the federal government politically, they will shut off. They'll basically starve you to death is what they're doing. So they went to the lengths of, we'll get into your stocks and bonds portfolio, for crying out loud. I mean, and your insurance policies. They're going to all lengths to squeeze the people out that disagree with the Canadian federal government COVID policies, for crying out loud. I mean, and so, like you say, we could not ask for a better advertisement for Bitcoin as an alternative to this tyrannical centralized authority who says, do what we say, and have our 5 experts on state-run TV that all agree. We don't get any other opinion, right? It's like, wow, you guys are just too freaking much already. And so we need that alternative, which is Bitcoin. But like I was saying, before we got on the live stream, was that I was apprehensive. I've heard Bitcoin ever since it started, right, through the Liberty movement, people talking here and there about it, and I was apprehensive. I was like, I don't know, because I know that the central banks want to do this digital currency, and they actually have launched it. I did a report about that, I don't know, 6-8 months ago. It's been a while back. It's called Dunbar, Project Dunbar.
Fedcoin.
And they launched it in South Africa, Australia, Malaysia. It was like 6 countries. I forget all of them, but that's the central banking digital currency system where I guess you have an app on your phone. I don't know exactly how it works because they haven't launched it here in the United States yet. I still have my paper fiat here, but I always thought, oh, well, just a central banker trick to get everybody acclimated to digital currency, Bitcoin. And so that's why I was apprehensive about going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole for a long time. But it seems like it's sorted out to be, and if you actually do your research, it's decentralized. Like you say, I'm over here, little Joe Blow, running my $250 node to buy the Raspberry computer and you download the free software, open source software from Umbrella. Let's give them a plug to get your node up and running. You open your channels, and you're basically your own bank, your own credit card processor, however you want to say it.
You're on your way, man. I'm impressed.
Huh?
You're on your way. I'm impressed.
Well, I find myself, I'm weaponized news, right? So I could easily, and I'm a paranoid kind of guy, right? Well, back in the day, I've been put on the hate group list by the Southern Poverty Law Center like 10 years ago for protesting for 9/11 truth. So I know, and they didn't do anything. They just said, oh, I was on their website. Not even me, my organization, We Are Change Fresno, we were called at that time, and we were protesting about 9/11 truth, trying to raise public awareness about 9/11. Anyway, they put us on their hate group watch list on their website. You would go on their website, hate groups in California, and they have a map, and you would pull it up, and there's the group I'm part of, We Are Change Fresno, right? So ever since then, I was like, ooh, they don't like what you going against the narrative. And if you're a quote conspiracy theorist, which is really just questioning the official narrative, and you're going to put you on list. And now we see them turning the dial up to the point where we're going to make it where you can't even live and starve you to death. So I figured I need an alternative, and weaponized news. I'm probably already on the list of political dissidents over here that is totally against the California state government, all run by Democrats. I am not even a Republican. Republicans are not much better, but I constantly speak out against them, and I'm sure at some point they would like to say, well, little Sam Cheney of weaponized news. And by the way, I'm already banned off YouTube, banned off Facebook, banned off Google now, right? So all these big tech companies have already banned me after I built up my platforms over there. I had like 10,000 subscribers, a decent little YouTube channel. I had 1,000 friends on Facebook. Most of them I really knew in real life, people I knew from high school, college, acquaintances, businesses, whatnot. They banned me off there, just deleted my accounts. Google, I was using Google AdSense on my website to serve advertising. They sent me a letter, said due to cyberbullying the World Health Organization, they will no longer do business with me. So I'm already seeing it from big tech, which, by the way, centered over here in Silicon Valley, right up the road from me in San Jose, right? What's called Mountain View, right up the road here, Silicon Valley. And so I'm already seeing it coming from the internet. And I had a business. I was trying to make some money. I had like $80 in my AdSense account at the time. Google stole $80 from me. I cut off access because I had set up, you earn $100 in advertising revenue, deposit in your bank, right? I had it built up to like $80, and nope, they just basically deleted me. You cannot access your account. They sent me an email. Due to posting dangerous and derogatory content, we are no longer going to do business with you. And that's because I was speaking out against the COVID-19 tyranny that the government's laying down on us, saying it's wrong. You guys are wrong. You know what I mean? And so anyway, that's why I see myself, Sam Cheney, weaponized news, as a political dissident in the eyes of the state, when all I want is to be peaceful, liberty, freedom. Everybody can go do their own thing. Don't infringe on my rights. I don't want to infringe on yours. I'm not pointing a gun at you saying you have to do this, right? I'm just saying we're putting out alternative ideas, alternative to the mainstream narrative, and maybe trying to make you guys think a little bit. And so, but that's why I find a lot of value in Bitcoin. If we ever get to the point in the United States where they cut off my banking, which Canada just showed us that that's kind of what these authoritarian centralized states like to do now, right? So that's why I'm hyped up on Bitcoin and need to have my own Lightning node network until the central bank FBI kicks my door down and seizes that from me, which wouldn't surprise me at this point, because it's mind blowing what we've seen these last 2 years since COVID got launched.
Well, it's funny you bring up the censorship, because the Canadian government actually passed they tried to reintroduce a bill this week. This got completely like thrown under the carpet with everything else going on. Basically, it's an internet bill aimed at censoring and regulating internet content in Canada. They tried to pass it last year. It didn't work. So now they're trying to, they're reintroducing it in Parliament. But it's I mean, you talk about YouTube, Google, all these platforms. They want to basically, decide for Canadians what's appropriate and what's not. So this is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous bill. And what people don't understand, this is what boggles me when it comes to censorship. Like, people want to live in a free society, but then they get upset or they get offended when there's certain views that are not in line with theirs. Well, that's not a free society. You can't have both, right? If you want a free society, you have to accept that sometimes people are not going to share the same view as you. You might disagree with them, or maybe even be offended. But if someone's offensive, then don't tune into their program. Don't read their content.
Jonathan, I'm offended every time I hear an ad from the California State Health Department pushing vaccines down my throat. And what do? I turn the dial off on my radio, and then I don't have to hear it anymore, right? I mean, it's that simple. Do I have to? I mean, it's the wokeism. It's called wokeism, I guess now.
Cancel culture. Yeah.
Cancel culture, wokeism. And it's like, we're liberal and, accepting and tolerant, but only of our views. And it's like, no, guys, you kind of missed the whole point of being liberal, right? I mean, it's mind-blowing to me. I blame the education system, not to go down that rabbit hole. Last question here, Jonathan, from my girlfriend about Bitcoin. Why does Bitcoin seem to, she's saying that she's seeing a correlation. Why does Bitcoin correlate with the stock market? Do you see that same correlation? Because she's like, I want to do something to preserve the value of my money and try to build some wealth, but I put it in the stock market, Bitcoin, everything goes down at the same time. So what's going on with that? Where does the money go? How about this question? Where do you think, and I haven't seen anybody talk about it, when money pulls out of everything, the stock market, the cryptos, and we see the market go down all in the same day or the same week, whatever, where does all that money go to?
Yeah, that's a great question. Right now, yes, Bitcoin is still viewed by many as a risk-on asset, especially the traditional investors who have been, you've seen a lot of institutional investors, hedge funds pour into Bitcoin this year. So they still view Bitcoin as a risk-on asset. So when there is volatility in the traditional markets, if there's fear in the markets, you're going to see a correction in US dollar terms, which is what we saw the last couple of weeks. But again, you have to zoom out because again, if you're just thinking in US dollar, terms, you got the whole thing wrong. A lot of Bitcoiners
explain that why we need to change the way we think about it.
One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, right? So today it might be worth $40,000 US. Tomorrow it might be worth $80,000 US, but it's still one Bitcoin. And when you really start to understand the principles of Bitcoin and why it's so important and why it's so valuable, you stop worrying about short-term price movement. And your goal is to accumulate, right? It's a game of accumulation. You're not worrying about, up and down price swings and what it's worth tomorrow or the day after. You're just trying to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible because you know that over the long term, Bitcoin. I mean, we're pretty much we're in the in the middle of the end game right now, right? This is where we're seeing the cracks in the fiat system. And there's this light at the end of the tunnel, which is Bitcoin.
Everything bubble, right? We're in the everything
exactly. Bubble. So that's why I say it's a game of accumulation. And again, zoom out and you're going to see this line going up if you're thinking in US dollars, right? But yes, right now it's going to be viewed as a risk-on asset. But you also have to look at all the money right now that's locked up in bonds, right? We're talking about trillions of dollars. At some point, people are not going to be happy with a 1%, a 2% return, or even negative return, which is what we saw in Europe and in
All
North
that
America.
negative interest rates in Europe, right? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So-
you have to pay
so-
to keep your money in the bank, basically.
So where is all that money going to go, right? We're talking about trillions of dollars. That money has to go somewhere.
I always, Jonathan, they used to tell me, well, I mean, it's pretty standard, right? But the most solid investment you could make with the least amount of risk is a U.S. Treasury bond was what used to be common knowledge like 10, 15 years ago. But now it's like, do you actually have, because what keeps this whole fiat system going is confidence in it, and it feels like the rest of the world is done with the petrodollar. China, Russia, like, hey guys, you know what, we're probably not going to do our oil transactions using dollars anymore. We're just fed up with you guys. You're corrupt, and you guys bully us around, and you guys go start all these wars everywhere, and you want to tell us how to live and you want to dictate to us over here about what we should do for our environment, how we should treat our people. We see you guys are woke over there doing all this wokeism, and so we're not buying what you're selling anymore, basically, is what a lot of China, the other major competing world superpower now, is the United States being the only official one, like on our last leg here, barely held up by the dollar as the world reserve currency. So it feels like confidence in the system my confidence has been gone a long time ago, because I understand the nature of the fiat debt-based monetary system. But it feels like the rest of the world is like done playing. You know what I mean? They're like, we're done. You guys have proved that we can't trust you or do business with you because you're so damn corrupt, is what it feels like. The rest of the world.
I mean, I think a lot of people will still, like I said, they'll opt for convenience over security or sovereignty. So I think, when these central banks roll out their central bank digital currencies, I think a lot of people will probably embrace it. And again, it's the nanny state kind of this last attempt at regaining people's trust. But at the same time, a lot of people will start to wake up and realize that the fiat system is not a long-term solution, and Bitcoin will be waiting for them.
Well, we saw Canada is the perfect example, best advertisement ever for Bitcoin. And like I was saying earlier, if you don't agree with whatever they come out with tomorrow, doesn't have to be say I agree with everything the government's doing right now. Yay, I love the government. But there's something they do tomorrow that I don't like. They want to go ahead and who knows what, take away my dog, right? They say dogs are illegal, and you gotta turn your dogs in for execution.
They saw your dog at the protest. He's got to go.
Your dog's got to go. They're bad for the environment, right? And so I love my dog. I don't want to turn it in for execution. I don't think it's bad for the environment. And so I would be now a dissident to the government who's saying that I need to do these things, get rid of my dog. I mean, that's just one crazy example, but everything's so crazy. I wouldn't doubt if they said that. But so today I'm okay, but tomorrow I could not be okay with what they're doing. And so I need an off ramp from this digital system, and Bitcoin is right there waiting for us. Like you say, we need everybody to go to your website, CoinBeast. You got a lot of great articles breaking it down. The most common misconceptions of Bitcoin. Can Bitcoin be a hobby? Why Bitcoin isn't a bubble, why Bitcoin network effects are more important than its price, why the world needs deflation. You got a lot of how to send and receive Bitcoin. You're into the practical usage of it. Can another cryptocurrency replace Bitcoin? A beginner's guide to multi-sig. And so you guys got a lot, your wealth of information. And that's why I told you I wanted you to come on the show to help educate our audience and the slower people that are not fully sold on Bitcoin. I have patriots listening to this probably that are maybe some older and they're not tech savvy, I guess you would say. And I would like to try to get those patriots that they understand the Federal Reserve and they understand the monetary system, but they're not tech savvy enough to understand Bitcoin. And so, what do you?
Well,
What
you
do
know
you
what?
have,
If
what do
they
you have to say
understand
for?
gold, if they understand gold, then Bitcoin is a easy transition. You know, the term digital gold has been thrown around a lot. I think that's a nice way of summing up Bitcoin. But I mean, Bitcoin is so much more than that. It's not just digital gold. We're seeing this entire payment system being built on top of it. Bitcoin is basically this parallel financial system that's being built out right now. And it allows people to basically opt out of the fiat system. And you can go back and forth. I mean, you can still use your dollars to pay for, your groceries and your loans, but you also have this store of value and sound money that also gives you, options, and it also allows you to opt out of the system if that's what you choose to do.
Digital gold, huh? I've been referring to it as because the rise of these NFTs, and you see everybody. What's the name? Mark Cuban, right? He was bragging about it for a while there on Twitter, and I went and looked. He posted his website where he has all these NFTs, digital art, right? And it's like, oh yeah, it's great, but it's not real, and I'm conflicted about this whole launch of the metaverse. They want us to go into virtual reality now, and I saw they're selling real estate in virtual reality.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? I mean, come on, you have enough money to be wasting your funds on virtual reality real estate? It's like, and I know Facebook, who's metaverse, I can't even have a regular Facebook account for crying out loud because I'm not politically correct. I don't follow the narrative. And they banned me. I mean, they banned my business, Weaponized News. They banned me personally, which, like I said, I most of the internet, Twitter. I know very few people personally on Twitter through these other video platforms that I'm on now: Odyssey, BitChute, Brighteon. Was it D Live? These other video. I don't know anybody really personally, but they're on Facebook because the way it was all rolled out. I was on MySpace. Actually, I'm 45 years old. I'm an old man over here, but I was on MySpace before Facebook, right? So, but I actually knew these people in real life. Went to high school, college with them. They were my personal business associates and whatnot, and they just cut me off from all that contact because I was telling people, hey, I don't believe COVID narrative from Fauci, right? And so they say, well, no, you're not allowed to say that. Gone. And so I just have I have a hard time with the metaverse here now. What are your thoughts on the metaverse virtual reality, which is Facebook basically? And we saw a massive push, but we did see the stock price of Facebook lose a lot of value, and I think that may be tied to the metaverse rollout.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people like to live in virtual worlds these days. So that's, some people would rather drive a virtual car than the real thing. But that's a whole other world. But again, I think there's a lot of confusion, with cryptocurrencies, NFTs, blockchain, all these big words that are thrown around. It's very important to understand the difference. You have Bitcoin, which is your sound money, which is basically the money of the internet.
That's the key, sound money. That's the key right there.
Sound money, exactly. And then you have everything else, and like I said, if you like going to the casino and maybe you'll get lucky with another cryptocurrency or an NFT and you might 10x, 20x, good for you. You could maybe sell it and get more Bitcoin. But it's important to understand that difference. Bitcoin is sound money. It's a store of value. It's basically you're building generational wealth, for your future and your kids' future and their kids' future. And then all these other, projects, they're projects, and maybe they go up, maybe they go down. But I don't view them as investments by any means.
All right, Jonathan, I think we need to wrap up our broadcast. We're plugging your site right now, Coinbeast. Any other points you want to make before we wrap up this broadcast?
Yeah, well, no, thanks again for having me on. It was great chatting. The other thing that I'll add with our website is we also offer, if you scroll down, you'll see there's a Coinbeast Connect. There's also a button at the top.
Where's that at?
Yeah, if you click on Coinbeast
right
Connect at the top there in yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that brings you. So the Coinbeast Connect is a resource where you can basically connect you can book a one-on-one video call with a Bitcoin pro. And if you scroll down, you'll see some of the pros that we have on our platform. Every pro has their own area of specialty. So for example, if you're interested in mining and you want to learn how to get started, you could find a pro that specializes in that. If you're interested in setting up your own node or participating in the Lightning Network, we have pros for that. So every pro kind of has their own area of specialty. If you're a noob and you're coming in and you have beginner questions, we have pros that can help you kind of navigate through that. Also, if you're more experienced and you want to, kind of take your game to the next level or get more technical, we have solutions for that as well. So we really try to cater to all levels. This is really like one-on-one education. So you can, ask all your questions and get them answered. So we actually launched this. We're coming up on a year now. We launched it last February, and we've had a lot of positive feedback. And we're really happy about that. And now we're also helping out a group called Bitcoin Day, and we're going to be getting involved in some live events throughout the U.S. And hopefully we'll organize a couple in Canada as well.
That's awesome. It's growing. It's the most valuable digital asset. It's digital gold, like we say. And I've been talking to people, and they're I'm still interested. I'm like, well, the only thing that's going to stop it is if they do an EMP attack and everybody's electricity goes down, and then we're in like some kind of road warrior scenario, and your money in the bank is not going to matter at that point. Your fiat, your paper, any of this, your money valued in dollars, that's not going to matter. None of this stuff's going to matter, because at that point, you're going to be worrying about eating and fending off the zombie hordes if you want the EMP and turn off all the power, right? And I'm like, will the central banks go to that length? They may very well, but I mean, this is our best weapon in the battle for freedom and liberty to take power back and self-determination away from these authoritarian tyrants, where they derive their power from is this fiat money. And so this is the freedom fighters and individuals' best weapon against that peaceful and nonviolent solution that I could see out there. That's where I'm at here with it, Jonathan. And I want.
Even in that scenario, we now have satellites in outer space that help run the Bitcoin network as well. So even if we lose power on Earth, we have satellites in outer space to keep the network running. So
all right. But a key thing, everybody needs their cold wallet, right? But real quick, tell us about that before we in this broadcast, Jonathan. What you don't want to leave your Bitcoin on these exchanges now, as we've seen and illustrated throughout this whole show. The government can go seize it. That's going to be interesting if these exchanges fight the government over it, or if they hand over the funds. If they do, it feels like they'll lose their credibility, but then be punished by the government. So tell us about what crypto wallets do you like, and why do people need to use cold storage? And like you said earlier, because you talk, and I understand what you're saying, but our audience may not, about you. You need to own your keys and not have a third party controlling your funds on one of these exchanges. Explain why that's important to us, please.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the Bitcoin world, we always say not your keys, not your coins, meaning if you don't actually have possession of your Bitcoin, you don't truly own it. So as we're seeing in the fiat system, right? If your coins are sitting on an exchange and that account gets closed or the exchange goes down for whatever reason, there is no guarantee that you'll ever get your Bitcoin. That being said, okay, there's a learning curve that has to take place. So if you're the kind of person who's willing to learn the basics, again, you don't have to be super technical, but if you're willing to learn the basics, your ultimate goal should be to get your Bitcoin on a hardware wallet like a Trezor, Cold Card, Ledger. Those are all good options. But if you're buying Bitcoin and you're not willing to learn those basic steps on how to receive Bitcoin, how to set up your private key, how to set up so when you set up, for example, a wallet, you're going to write down a seed phrase. And obviously you need to store those words in a very safe place. So if you're not willing to take those steps, then I would actually discourage you from putting them on a hardware wallet, because if you do something wrong, there is no way of recovering your Bitcoin, right? You can't call a 1-800 number. You can't call your bank and say, hey, can you send the Bitcoin back? Once you lose it, it's gone forever. So if you buy Bitcoin on an exchange, before you send the Bitcoin anywhere, make sure you know what you're doing, or you can ask a friend that knows, or you can ask a pro. But like I said, you don't have to be super technical, but there are certain steps and certain things you need to learn before you start moving your Bitcoin around. So that's really important. But yes, the ultimate goal is to, own your own coins, get them on a wallet, and become financially sovereign.
And a wallet. Oh, here, I didn't know if I lost mine in a boating accident, but I found it again. Right? It's an example. This is your wallet, a Trezor here. Yeah. And this, you put it on here, and this is your own savings account on this little device. It's like similar to a thumb drive type of device.
And even if you lose the hardware wallet in a boating accident, as long as you have your seed phrase, which is a series of words, you can recover your Bitcoin from another wallet or from another Trezor. So that's really important. When you're setting up your wallet, you want to take really good care of your seed phrase and make sure it's in a secure place and it's somewhere where you can retrieve it if you need to. So
it's somewhere where you can lose it when the government comes to raid you and seize all your assets, as well as we've seen. I mean, the best advertisement ever we could ask for is the Canadian federal government and how they're treating their truckers, the people that bring them their supplies and food. It's a Looney Tune world. And so we're trying to give our audience here an alternative and be safe and secure and confident in going into the future. And it's a scary time and a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, but we don't have to be afraid. Let's break the fear-based mind control program. Let's take the power that's out there, which a major part of your financing is Bitcoin, I think. And let's claim that and own it and claim our own personal responsibility and not be afraid and not be reliant on crazy people out there in the government and the banking system. We need to take our own personal responsibility, and that will gives me more confidence and just solace, peace of mind, I guess you could say, Jonathan.
Absolutely, yeah, very well said.
Give you a peace of mind to where we're not reliable on outside forces that we have no control over.
You spoke like a true Bitcoiner right there.
All right, Jonathan, I appreciate your time very much. I hope we can do another show as things come along for you and Coinbeast and promote your great work over there. Everybody do your own research, not giving financial advice on this show. Don't sue us. Subscribe to this channel. Peace, love, and liberty. Speak out and take action, and have a good night.